The jury has just delivered a verdict on 4 out of 5 charges in the Sean Combs case. But the one charge everyone's been watching like a hawk, the racketeering count, remains unresolved. After hours of intense deliberation, jurors are deadlocked. They simply can't agree on whether Diddy is guilty of running a criminal enterprise. This partial verdict throws the whole case into a swirl of questions. Why is this racketeering charge such a puzzle for the jury? What does it even mean to be charged with racketeering? And how does this deadlock affect Sean Combs' fate? To understand what's happening in that jury room, we first have to unpack what the jury has agreed on so far. The unanimous verdicts on 4 of the 5 counts include serious charges like sex trafficking and violations of the Mann Act. These counts specifically relate to 2 witnesses, Jane and Cassie, whose testimonies were central to the prosecution's case. Sex trafficking and the Mann Act charges are heavy accusations. They prove that the jury believes some form of exploitation or illegal activity took place involving the transportation of victims across state lines for illicit purposes. Those verdicts are far from minor. If Diddy is convicted on these counts, he faces substantial prison time. But all those crimes are wrapped up into the racketeering count. Racketeering isn't just a standalone crime. It's a legal framework designed to tackle organized criminal enterprises. Think mob bosses and gangs running illegal operations as a business. To convict on racketeering, the government has to prove there was a criminal enterprise and that the defendant engaged in a pattern of criminal activity as part of that enterprise. Here's where things get tricky. Some jurors seem convinced that Diddy committed the individual crimes outlined in the other charges, but they struggle with the idea that he was running a coordinated criminal enterprise. They can't agree if he fits the classic mold of a racketeer. In their minds, maybe he's guilty of bad acts, but is he really the mastermind behind a criminal network? That uncertainty has led to the jury's deadlock on the racketeering charge. This deadlock isn't just a legal technicality. It's a battle over how we define criminal responsibility. The racketeering statute was never meant to be slapped on every case involving multiple crimes. It targets people orchestrating a business of crime, and that's what jurors are wrestling with. So, what happens when jurors can't agree? The judge has a few options, one of which is the so-called Allen charge, sometimes called the dynamite charge. It's a tool meant to break deadlocks by encouraging jurors to re-examine their doubts and consider compromise. But it can feel like a pressure tactic. Imagine a judge saying, "You've spent days on this. It's time to come to a decision." For jurors holding out, that can feel like being bullied into a verdict, which raises concerns about fairness. In this case, the judge has so far avoided giving the Allen charge, instead sending the jury back with a reminder to keep deliberating. The defense team is relieved by this because forcing a verdict could lead to coerced decisions rather than true consensus. Their hope is that the holdouts will remain firm, resulting in a hung jury on racketeering. Now, even if the jury remains deadlocked on racketeering, that doesn't mean Diddy walks free. The convictions on the other 4 counts carry heavy penalties. While racketeering can bring a maximum life sentence, the other charges, especially sex trafficking and Mann Act violations, still expose Diddy to many years behind bars. Sentencing is complex, though. Federal judges rely on sentencing guidelines that weigh various factors: the severity of crimes, the defendant's past record, and even mitigating circumstances. Diddy's clean criminal history could help reduce his time, but the sheer number and seriousness of the convictions means he's still looking at significant prison exposure. Juror dynamics inside the deliberation room add another layer to the story. Multiple jurors on both sides are dug in, not just a single holdout. That makes the deadlock more stubborn and the outcome more uncertain. And with a long holiday weekend looming, the clock is ticking. Holidays can strangely motivate juries to reach a verdict faster. The prospect of sitting through deliberations over a multi-day break can push holdouts to compromise just to get the case done. But there's strategy involved too. The defense doesn't want jurors to know about the upcoming holiday, hoping those against conviction on racketeering will stand their ground, banking on the jury being sent home without a verdict on that count. The outcome here has ripple effects beyond just Sean Combs. The government's strategy to pursue the racketeering charge was about more than one man. It was designed to hit the entire alleged criminal enterprise, others connected to Diddy like KK and more. A successful racketeering conviction could have made it easier to prosecute those co-conspirators. But a hung jury on racketeering complicates that. Without that umbrella charge, it's harder to prove a coordinated enterprise. Other defendants might face separate trials based on their own individual evidence, which weakens the government's leverage. It also means Diddy likely won't come to their aid, since his own conviction would already put him on the defensive. Tomorrow's deliberation will be a critical moment. Will jurors break the deadlock and convict on racketeering, Or will the judge accept a hung jury on that charge and only announce verdicts on the other counts? The verdict will ripple through the hip-hop world and legal circles alike. Right now, Sean Combs' courtroom expression says it all. Tense, unsure, watching as the legal battle hangs in the balance. The partial verdict marks a turning point, but not the end. And that's why everyone watching, from fans to legal experts, is waiting. Because no matter what happens next, this case has already changed the way we think about fame, power, and accountability in the modern era. So, what exactly does this racketeering charge involve? At its core, racketeering is about proving there's an enterprise, an organization or group engaged in ongoing illegal activity. The government claims that Diddy's operations functioned like that, but in the eyes of some jurors, it looks like a one-man show. The tricky part is that RICO laws were originally designed to take down mafia families and street gangs, entities with clear hierarchies and coordinated illegal businesses. Here, prosecutors argue that Diddy's network qualifies as that kind of enterprise, but jurors who aren't convinced may see it as just isolated crimes by one individual. This disconnect fuels their inability to reach a unanimous verdict. What is the Allen charge, and why is it so controversial? The Allen charge is a rare judicial move designed to coax jurors to consensus. It basically tells them, you've spent enough time. It's important you reach a unanimous verdict. Reconsider your positions, but don't abandon your honest beliefs. It's a delicate balance. The charge walks a fine line between encouraging deliberation and pressuring jurors. Critics say it can coerce those with genuine doubts into changing their minds just to avoid a mistrial. The defense team in this case clearly fears that outcome, preferring a hung jury over a forced conviction. So what happens if the jury never agrees on racketeering? If the judge accepts a hung jury on that count, the government faces a choice: retry Diddy on racketeering or move forward with convictions on the other charges. Given the complexity and high bar for RICO convictions, prosecutors may decide a retrial isn't worth the gamble. That leaves Diddy convicted on sex trafficking and Mann Act violations, carrying long sentences, but avoiding the life sentence that racketeering could bring. What about sentencing? How much time could Diddy face? Sentencing is complex, with guidelines that factor in multiple convictions, the defendant's history, and the nature of the crimes. While racketeering can mean life behind bars, the other charges still carry heavy penalties, potentially decades in prison. Diddy's clean record might earn him some leniency, but multiple convictions often add up. Some sentences run concurrently, others consecutively. The judge has discretion, but it's safe to say a conviction on those 4 charges alone is serious. How do jury dynamics influence the outcome? Jurors report they're dug in, multiple jurors on both sides holding firm. With a holiday approaching, tension rises. Sometimes long weekends motivate jurors to compromise rather than be stuck deliberating through the break, but the defense wants jurors to think they can get sent home without deciding on racketeering, a strategy to maintain the deadlock. What does this mean for others connected to the case? Racketeering charges can bring down entire criminal enterprises. If Diddy is convicted of racketeering, it opens the door for the government to go after co-conspirators. But a hung jury weakens that case, leaving others to face trials alone. The final verdict is still pending, but the stakes couldn't be higher. Tomorrow's deliberations could change everything. Will the jury break the deadlock and convict on racketeering, or will the judge accept a hung jury on that count? Whatever happens, the courtroom drama isn't over, and the story of Sean Combs' trial will continue to captivate the world. That's the current state of the Diddy verdict. We'll be watching closely as the next chapter unfolds.